Who is going to win the Metropolitan Division? Who is going to be finishing in 8th place? And where are the Blue Jackets going to end up? Our answer might surprise you a little bit. We're going to talk about all of that on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster. With me is my co-host, Hayden Houseland. We are here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and ours, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms. We are over on YouTube, and we're also on the SiriusXM app. Quick note, we had a YouTube commenter today who couldn't find us on SiriusXM. What you have to do is you have to type in the full show and the subtitle of the show. So you have to type in Locked On Blue Jackets - daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets. You have to type the whole thing in. Otherwise it doesn't find it, which is super annoying. But that's how you got to do it.
Work for us.
So, yeah,
you have to earn it.
No, it's I tease. We are extremely grateful that they've partnered with us. We're doing good numbers over in SiriusXM. You love to see it. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Metropolitan Division. Later on this week, we're going to start our kind of I'm calling them Metropolitan matchups because I love an alliteration. And so we're going to be sitting down, I think, with the hosts of every other Metropolitan Division show. And we'll see where they are in terms of kind of the offseason they had, where they stack up against the Blue Jackets, etc., etc. So that's later on this week. But I thought today what we would do is we would sit down and we would look at kind of the Metropolitan Division as a whole. We would say maybe some predictions on where we think people are going to end up, or where we think teams are going to end up, where the Blue Jackets specifically are going to end up. And what I've done is I've ranked teams 1 through 8, and I also have some tiers as well. I think there's some room for error here. So let's start from the very top. Who do you think, Hayden, is going to finish on top of the Metropolitan Division this season?
Well, for one, I think you instantly think about teams like the New Jersey Devils, who they just finished in first, right?
They should have came in second by a point, I believe.
The Canes won,
so
right?
Last season standings, for what it's worth, Carolina finished first with 113 points, New Jersey with 112, the Rangers with 107, the Islanders with 93, Pittsburgh with 91, Washington with 80, Philadelphia with 75, and the Blue Jackets with 59.
It felt like the Devils won it last year just because I think they got good so fast and nobody expected them to be that good that quickly. Huge turnaround for them. Certainly they can be favorites to win this year, but I think the team that finished in first last year in the Carolina Hurricanes also had one of the better off seasons this year. When you look at their key additions, like they have some really solid additions. Everybody's darling in the NHL, Michael Bunting. He signed a 3-year deal with them. Dmitry Orlov, everybody's darling defenseman that went to the Bruins. He signed a 2-year deal with them. And then they added Tony DeAngelo as well. So they kind of beefed up that D squad a little bit. Now they are losing Gottsberg and Calvin DeHaan, but I think the two that they got are better. Maybe not individually Tony DeAngelo necessarily better than those two, but I think as a whole, Dmitry Orlov is like a point-a-game defenseman on when he's
Dmitry
on.
Orlov is one of the more underrated defensemen in the league, I think. And when you add him into that mix, along with a decor that already consists of players like Jacob Slavin, it gets a little scary. Yeah, like you said, they were very good last season, and then they just got better. Not in a flashy way, I think. And that this is not a dig at the New Jersey Devils, but I think they got better in kind of a flashy way. They went out and they picked up Tyler Toffoli, who had 30 goals last season on a truly miserable Calgary Flames team. The Hurricanes got better in a very Hurricanes way. They went out and they added a guy like Orlov, who I think is that's the addition of the offseason for the Hurricanes. They're paying him, I think, just under $8 million for the next 2 seasons. Great contract. And I think, he's going to be really, really good with them. I also have the Hurricanes finishing at the top of the Metropolitan Division. I have the Devils in second place, but like I said at the start, I've kind of grouped these together into tiers. So, like, I have the Devils and the Hurricanes basically are in that top tier of their finish. I would be very surprised if anyone else finished in top 2 in the Metropolitan Division. I think it's going to be the Hurricanes and the Devils real close behind them, or I wouldn't be surprised if the Devils win the division, as much as it pains me to admit it. They were very good last season. They had a very good off season. And I think this is really only the start for them.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, the Devils are so good. I mean, they also did fantastic. As you said, Toffoli, they signed Colin Miller as well, a huge piece of that Vegas Golden
Luke
Knights.
Hughes, I assume, is going to be in the NHL full time. He signed out of college at the end of the season, got a couple of playoff games, I think, but don't sleep on him. He is maybe not as good as Jack or Quinn, but he is a very good young defenseman. So don't sleep on Luke Hughes. They've got Dougie Hamilton locked up long term. John Marino is a very good young defenseman. Same with Jonas Siegenthaler. I'm a big Jonas Siegenthaler fan, even though I can't say his name without stumbling over it. And then you look at like their big guys. They've got Timo Meier, Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, and Nico Hischier all locked up for at least the next 4 seasons for under $9 million a player. You know?
Yeah,
they still have almost $2 million in cap space, and they've got 14 forwards, 7 defensemen, and 2 goalies. You know? The Devils are going to be so good for so long, and I'm mad about it.
Yeah, no, the Devils, they're Tasmanian with how much they're going to tear up the Metropolitan. And all those names that you just listed, all those superstars, and we still left off Dougie Hamilton, too, who had, a 74-point season last year at defense. Maybe you did name him, but I forget about Dougie Hamilton sometimes. Mm-hmm. And a guy that's just a point-a-game defenseman at 6'6". Like, that guy is he's a terror out there. Mm-hmm. That was just his first year with
they've got the goaltending as well. And that's true of Carolina as well. Like, Carolina's goaltending, they're bringing it back with Freddie Anderson, Antti Raanta, and I believe they're going to be rolling 3 goalies because they don't have an AHL team right now. So Pyotr Kochetkov is probably going to be in the NHL unless they send him, they loan him somewhere. I don't believe he's waivers eligible anymore. I don't have the Hurricanes cap-friendly page open to double check that. But again, the Devils, stellar goaltending last season. Mackenzie Blackwood almost sunk them. He was injured, and they ended up having to go with a tandem of Vitek Vanacek, who was only okay in Washington, I thought, and Akira Schmid, who is an infant. And they were both excellent. Akira Schmid is still on his ELC. He is super cheap. He was very, very good. Vitek Vanacek, if they can get the goaltending they got last season, the Devils are scary, man.
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with what I said the other day when I said that I think that they might fall off. I don't think that they will. I think the biggest thing that they lost was an assistant coach, and that's a guy that's on the bench who has no practical impact on the game. I mean, maybe he does, outside, but he has no impact on what actually happens on the ice. I think they're going to be fine as a team. I don't have them in the top 2, though. I actually went, in terms of my predictions, I went Canes and then the Penguins, number 2, because I think the Penguins adding the Norris Trophy winner, I mean, they're an absolute unit. And then they beefed up their center position as well, getting Vinny Hinostroza and Noel Chari. That's going to be their 3rd and 4th center, and because they got Crosby and Malkin down the middle. They're still absolutely insane. I mean, and I just can never count out the Penguins. I can never count them out. I'm kind of picking them second, hoping that I'm just so dead wrong about them and that they just stink. But the Penguins they feel so much different than a team like the Capitals for me. because they just always hang around. You know what I mean? Like, they
Mhm.
never go away. Just
The
when you think
Penguins
they're
have an
dead.
extremely good head coach.
Yeah.
Mike Sullivan is I think we're going for maybe a bit of a hot take here. Mike Sullivan is the best coach in the NHL, I think. He has done wonders with, frankly, Ron Hextall did his best to sink this team, and Mike Sullivan got results out of it. Anyway, when you've got, when you're getting 90 points out of 35-year-old Sidney Crosby, and I think Evgeny Malkin had just under 80 points this season at the age of 37, like, the Penguins feel like they're starting to slow down. I actually have them way lower in my rankings, but like you said, they just keep finding a way to hang around. It feels a little bit like the Mike Babcock Red Wings, where every single time they lost a guy, you're like, oh man, that when they lose, for example, when they lose Datsuk, he goes back to Russia, or they lose Zetterberg, and you're always like, man, they lose this guy, and then someone else just kind of turns up. The Penguins are kind of the same thing. They just will not go away. I think they probably take a step back this season. You mentioned the Erik Karlsson trade. That was, unless that's happened in the 11 minutes since we started recording, he is not a done deal for them
Is
yet.
it still
So
not
I'm
official?
hesitant.
Did that not happen?
No, not yet. He is still a Shark as of right now. I think the general understanding is he's probably going to go to Pittsburgh. I think that's where he wants to go. And if they do get him, I think probably my rankings will lift a little bit. But
yes, this
as
is
of
all
right
based
now,
on that.
as of right now, I have the Penguins lower in the lineup.
My pen is
In
out.
a
I'm
minute,
moving them down. Devils number
you
2.
move me down. Okay, in a minute, we're going to
Yep.
talk about who we have third, and kind of in that what my friend Kyle Demetrius from Locked On Sharks always calls the creamy middle of the division. So we're going to look at 3, 4, and 5 in the Metropolitan division in just a second. First, though, I got to tell you guys about FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting the MLB on FanDuel. Get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets, up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you're going to get $200 in bonus bets, whether you win or lose. $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. You don't have to wait around for that deposit to hit. It happens immediately. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official betting partner of Major League Baseball, and also us, the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, we're back with Locked On Blue Jackets. Jay Foster, Hayden Heilson here. We're talking about the Metropolitan Division today. Who do you have in third place? Which I guess it might be different now that you've bumped the Penguins down in your rankings.
Erik Karlsson, to me, if he's not on the team, that is worth a whole 2 spots, and they're dropping all the way down to 4th. And I have the Rangers coming in at 3rd. I think the Rangers adding Blake Wheeler was huge for him. Gosh, who else did they add? They added somebody big that I'm forgetting. I'll have it here in just a second.
Question.
But you can never count out that team. They're too ridiculous. They feel like, even though they lost Tarasenko, he was a deadline addition anyway, so that wasn't too much. But it feels like also that their young core is starting to come around too, like Lafreniere, Capo Caco, and Keandre Miller. Like, all those guys really feel like, to me, a very dangerous core in the NHL. A team that also went toe-to-toe last year with the Devils. That I just feel like they're dangerous. I don't think they are going to win the division, but I think they're good enough to hang around. So I have them slotting in at 3rd. They're going to get that 3rd Metropolitan spot.
Yeah, I also have them slotting in at 3rd. This is kind of dependent on a lot of things. Mostly it's dependent on Igor Shesterkin staying healthy. I feel like, and I got some flack for this on the national show when I said that they were an Igor Shesterkin injury away from being at the bottom of the Metropolitan Division. Maybe that is kind of an over exaggeration, but I know from experience, good goaltender, like losing a good goalie and not having anyone to replace him when, your backup goalie is 37-year-old Jonathan Quick, that can sink a team, Obviously, they still have guys like Panarin, and they have Zibanejad, they have Kreider, who I'm a big fan of. And obviously, they still have Adam Fox, who is, 2 years removed from winning the Norris and is maybe one of the best young defensemen in the league. So, they're going to be fine. But I think my having them at third is entirely dependent on a healthy Igor Shesterkin. And I have no reason to think that he's going to be unhealthy or he's, going to get hurt. But that's just kind of that's the vibe I get from them, is not that they are entirely reliant on good goaltending, because the underlying stats are pretty good for the Rangers, but I'll be interested to see if they could have as good of a performance as they had this year if they don't have Igor Shesterkin in net. So I have them third. This is also kind of the start of my second tier, so I have the third, fourth, and fifth teams kind of in a similar tier. So these three teams, I wouldn't be surprised if one of them went third. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them went fourth, if one of them went fifth, in any kind of combination. So that's third. I assume you bumped the Devils up to second now that you've bumped the Penguins down to fourth.
Yes. And actually, you know what? I should have never even had the Penguins at second. I think the Penguins, even with Erik Karlsson, are going to finish third. I just, as I was thinking through it, and you said the ages of Crosby, 35 years old. You said the age of Malkin, 37. And I just thought to myself,
I don't think either of them are slowing down yet. I want to put that out there. I still think that they're two of the best players in the league still. Crosby, I think, is still
no doubt
top 5, maybe top 3 of all skaters in this league.
And
even
third,
at the age of 35. But
Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, but third in the Metropolitan Division, that's as good as a Pacific Championship banner, right? As we're winning the Pacific Division.
That's
is it not?
The Metro is a tough division. I looked it up. Where's the league standings? So, of the top 9 teams in the NHL last season, 3 of them were in the Metropolitan Division. They are, I believe, the only division that had 3 100-plus point seasons. No, excuse me. The Pacific had 4. So the Pacific could be a weirdly scary division, but yeah, the Metro's tough. I have the Penguins in 4th. I don't think that we need to talk a ton about the Penguins, since we kind of covered that when we talked about them in when you had them in second place, and this Erik Karlsson trade that may or may not happen. Hey, listen, by the time this airs, they might have traded for him, and then we get to be really
news to me that he's not on the team.
Honestly, I also was like, did I imagine it not happening? But no, it hasn't happened yet. But 5th place is actually where I have the Blue Jackets right now, which might be controversial. But I have the Blue Jackets over the Islanders, the Capitals, and the Flyers right now. I think, we've talked kind of at length about the Blue Jackets and who they got this offseason and who they got back this offseason. They're essentially getting Zach Werenski, Ivan Provorov, and Damon Severson. Proverson went across very well in yesterday's episode, by the way. People enjoyed Proverson. So maybe I will just mumble my words more often. But you add Adam Fantilli into that, you add a healthy Laine into that. Goaltending. If you get good goaltending, or even better goaltending out of Elvis Merzlikins, this team gets better immediately. I'm just going to very briefly pull up. So if you give Elvis Merzlikins a 900 save percentage, which last season, just to be clear, he had way less than that. And he plays, if you average, how many games did I give him? I assumed that he and Korpisalo would both play 41 games last season, which obviously is not likely. But if he plays 41 games and has a 900 save percentage, instead of allowing 110 goals against in 30 games, he allows 121 goals against in way fewer, in way more minutes. So if they get good goaltending out of Elvis Merzlikins, this team immediately gets way better. So that's why I have them at 5, and I think 5 Metropolitan teams might make the playoffs this season. So I think the Blue Jackets are going to be on the fringe of that. It might be a one of those where they make it on the very last day of the season, or they don't make it on the very last day of the season. But if all goes well for the Blue Jackets, I fully expect them to finish way higher than what they did this season, which was 8th. So who do you have at 5?
Who do you have your top? What's your first 4 again?
So
your
my
first
top
4
4
teams.
is
You got
Hurricanes,
Canes,
Devils, Rangers, Penguins, and then the Blue Jackets at 5.
Okay, I have the exact same 4, and then I have the exact same 5. I am taking the Blue Jackets to finish 5th in this division because of the key additions, because of getting, in my opinion, the best coaching hire this offseason. I think they're ready. I called them the other day that they had Stanley Cup winning talent. I believe that in-house. I believe a lot of teams do, by the way, not just the Blue Jackets. Obviously, I think a lot of teams have Stanley Cup talent in-house, but I think they have the right coach too, man. I really do. I think they're going to improve a lot. And it's also mostly because I don't think the other 3 teams are very good. The Capitals, Islanders, and Flyers. I don't think any of those 3 teams made good strides to get better. Like when I look at the top 4 teams, and then even like when I look at the Blue Jackets compared to teams like the Canes and Devils, those 2 teams really went hard this offseason. Those 2 teams felt like. And then the Blue Jackets also went hard this offseason. They could have gone harder, but they went hard. And then I think the Penguins went just about as hard as well. So I kind of have like the Blue Jackets could be 5, but they also could be 4. I think the Blue Jackets, it's just all going to obviously come down to health. And gosh, I'm praying every single night that the Blue Jackets get better goaltending. Like I'm starting that nightly prayer now. Dear Lord, please allow the Blue Jackets to have better goaltending this year than they did last year. And if they do, Jay, there's no question this team should be in the top 5 in the division. There's no question they should be in the top 4. Like everything around them should come together nicely. Now, that's not how it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
That's fast tracking a lot of things, but on paper, I think this is the 5th best team in the Metro.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be surprised to see them kind of hanging around 6th in Metro, but I was looking at I have the top 4, and then I was looking at the other teams, and I was like, well, I think they're going to be better than the Flyers by design. The Flyers are going to be in a rebuild. I think they're going to be better than the Capitals, who I think got worse this offseason. And I think they're going to be worse. I think they're going to be better than the Islanders, who are a million years old and again have like 3 good players. Sorry to Gil Martin, who hosts Locked On Islanders and is the nicest man on the planet. But your team is probably going to be bad this season. I think good goaltending will probably keep them afloat. So I actually have the Islanders in 6th place if we move on. And then, yeah, I think it's mostly Ilya Sorokin and Matt Barzal, I think. They have a decent defenseman in Pulak and Pelech, which is always real fun to think about when you're trying to do play-by-play for an Islanders game. But, yeah, I don't know. The Islanders just don't scare me.
They lost Josh Bailey, who I feel like was a big, big glue guy for that team for a long time. They also lost Zach Parise. They didn't do much to add. Julian Gauthier is their only dude that they added. I don't care much about that guy. He's not good. He can't be good enough than any of the moves that the Jackets made. But the thing is with the Flyers, Jay, is like they're another team just like the Penguins. Like they just don't go away for some reason. I don't know what it is. I mean, I've had the privilege of getting a chance to go out to a game out at on Long Island back when they played at the Coliseum, and it's a rowdy environment. Like, don't get me wrong, it's one of the rowdier environments in the NHL, I believe, but that's not enough to carry a team, especially in this division. I think at some point they have to fall off, and them finishing 4th last year, again, like you just said, I mean, you may not have said this exactly word for word, but you've definitely said it to me in the past, they're an Ilya Sorokin injury away from being dead last in this division.
Mhm.
Maybe not dead last, but falling all the way to the bottom.
I think Ilya Sorokin, and
So I got him in the
I
same
think
spot.
they are in a better place in terms of a backup goalie. I think Semyon Varlamov is a better backup than Jonathan Quick. So like they probably won't sink, but I think the Rangers are a better team than the Islanders. So it really I think it probably all comes out in the wash in terms of those two what is it about New York-based teams and extremely good Russian goaltenders with the initials I and S, by the way? What we really needed was Ilya Samsonov to go to New Jersey, and then they would have had the trifecta. But yeah, the Islanders, again, they're a team that wouldn't be surprised if they finish a little higher in the division, but I am mostly expecting them to keep slowing down. They've got Bo Horvat locked up long term. I know he was a guy that the Blue Jackets fans really wanted to go after for a minute there. He's fine. I don't know that I would pay $8.5 million for the next 8 years for him. But that's who I have. Do you have the Islanders in 6th as well, or?
I have the Islanders in 7th. I have the Islanders in 7th. I have the Capitals in 6th, Islanders in 7th, and the Flyers.
We'll take a quick break, and then we'll talk about who you have at 6th, because I feel like there's only really one option there, and we'll talk about the bottom of the league in just a second. All right, so you have the Islanders in 7th. You have the Flyers in last position, I assume, which means you have to have the Capitals in 6th. So let's talk about the Washington Capitals, who, again, I feel like just keep getting older, and we'll see how that goes for them.
I have a thing to say about the Capitals. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it feels like the Washington Capitals, they have the biggest side distraction that you could possibly have, and that's Alex Ovechkin chasing Wayne Gretzky's goal record. Like, that has to be looming over that team. They've gone from 2nd in the division to 4th to 6th in the division the last 3 years. So it's not really looking like it's going up. They just lost Dmitry Orlov. They still have John Carlson, but he's 33 years old. Like, he's getting older too. So it's like this team just can't be going anywhere. They just got a new coach too. What's his name? Brad Carberry or whatever. I don't know much about that guy, but that feels like a very Brad Larson-esque kind of hire. Like, to me, they didn't do anything in the offseason other than sign a really old and injured Max Pacioretty and draft Ryan Leonard, who isn't as good as
Ryan Leonard's going to be sick, in fairness.
He's going to be good.
I think Ryan Leonard's going to be really sick, but he's a couple of years away.
Yeah.
Max Pacioretty is a really good boom or bust choice. They signed him for cheap, I believe. How much money is he making? He is making
I want to say
$2 million this season. Yeah. Like, for Max Pacioretty, a healthy Max Pacioretty, that is a bargain. But is he a healthy Max Pacioretty? And again, it's really hard to root against a team with Alex Ovechkin on it, because he can just win games he can just decide that he's going to score a hat trick. Like you said, I don't know that it's a distraction necessarily. I think it's looming over them in terms of his goal record. I don't know how many goals away he is. So I can pull that up. But
great question.
Think the problem, the thing is, it's Alex Ovechkin scoring more goals is not going to be a bad thing for this team. Like, he's one of the top 5 players in the league. He is 72 goals away from Wayne Gretzky's record, which is bonkers, by the way, because I've just for a long time, I just treated all of Gretzky's records as like unbeatable. And then here comes Alex Ovechkin, who's like, yeah, I'm going to score 1,000 goals. Like, he might, I don't know if he'll break 1,000. He might. My guess is he breaks the record and then goes back to Russia to finish his career, but he's staying here until he breaks the record. And I know the Capitals have gone on record of saying, we're not rebuilding until Ovechkin breaks that record, or we're not rebuilding while Alex Ovechkin is on the team. So Distraction, no, but I think that's definitely in their plans. If they want Ovechkin to break the record and they're not going to tear the team down and start making it good again. So I think they probably will just continue this slow decline instead of blowing it up, which might work, it might not. But yeah, like I said, it's hard to root against the Capitals, but I'm looking at their roster and I'm like, no, a healthy Blue Jackets roster beats this. I don't know who they have in goal off the top of my head. It's Darcy Kemper, who's fine. But he's 33 years old and he's signed for another 4 seasons at $5.5 million, which seems like a lot. The defense is fine. The forwards, I think they would like to be a little bit deeper. Evgeny Kuznetsov reportedly wants out of Washington, so we'll see where that goes. They want to add another top 6 winger, I believe. They were in on Alex DeBrincat. Obviously, that didn't go anywhere. But yeah, the Capitals, I don't know. The Capitals don't scare me in the same way that the Penguins scare me. The teams are of a similar age, but I'm still looking at the Penguins like, yeah, these guys can do some damage. Let's finish off because we're starting to go a little long here. We both have the Flyers in 8th place in the division, which is not a slight on the Flyers. This is by design. The Flyers are in a rebuild. They tore it down to the studs this season. They're probably not done yet. Danny Briere has... it's the equivalent of like moving into a new rented property and being like, well, I don't like that vase, so I'm going to throw that away and I'm going to tear this carpet up because I don't like this, It's just a bunch of really bad home renovations that he's trying to fix right now. Travis Konechny might be on the way out of there. Scott Lawton might be on the way out of there. Travis Sanheim is probably on his way out. Like, beyond that, they don't super have any game changers on the roster. Like, if Carter Hart had been the Carter Hart that they were supposed to get, like, we'd probably be in a very different position right now. Again, a really good example of how bad goaltending can sink a team. But I still think the Flyers are going to be bad this season. And they should be, and they should enjoy being bad because they're going to be in the conversation for Macklin Celebrini. So
credit me on the Carter Hart take. I know this was long before I was on the show, but I've been beating the drum that he's bad for a long time. So that really is nice that you kind of said that he kind of stinks. You didn't say it directly, but you said it in your tone, Jay. That Carter Hart kind of stinks.
I wanted nice things for Carter Hart. I thought he was phenomenal in juniors. Unfortunately, Philadelphia is where goaltending goes to die.
That's why Bobrovsky got out of there.
I don't know if it's like the curse of Ron Hextall looming over them all, but like you look at the goalies that have gone through there, Bobrovsky was bad right up until he got traded to Columbus and suddenly found some life again, Similar thing with Carter Hart. What's going to happen is he's going to get traded somewhere else and he's going to suddenly be good again. I like Carter Hart a lot. He's a good goalie in a bad situation. And hopefully he either gets out of Philadelphia or Philadelphia gets better. My guess is it's the first one because I don't know that they're going to keep him around for a rebuild. He's making $4 million this season and then is an RFA after that. So we'll see. They picked up Cal Peterson from the Kings, who was really good a couple of seasons ago and then fell off a cliff immediately. So like they're not sunk entirely if they decide to trade Carter Hart. But yeah, I'm not expecting anything from the Flyers this season. And I don't think Flyers fans will be upset about that.
No, they can keep sliding down, and you know what? If the Penguins and Capitals want to hitch a ride with them, by all means, feel free, guys. Because the Flyers, their future is Matvei Michkov. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm. They had a phenomenal draft. Not even Michkov, like drafting. They had a really, really good draft
with our pick.
Michkov, obviously the gem of the 2023 draft. But they drafted, who did they draft at the 22nd? Oliver Bonk, who I really like. I don't know, they drafted it's a great name, first of all. And he's a good player. Like, I don't know, I like a lot of what they did at the draft. So yeah, give them 2025. The Flyers are going to reemerge. They're going to reemerge into the Metro and be competitive when Michkov arrives.
Future me will worry about those Flyers.
Yeah, exactly. We'll worry about that in like 3 seasons' time. We'll have to. I've written mine down, so I'll have to keep this, and then we can look back at it at the end of the season, so we can see how right or how wrong we are. I think that's it for now. Tomorrow, we are going to get back to our season reviews. We are going to be talking about, I wrote this down and lost it immediately. We're going to be talking about Marcus Bjork and Adam Boquist next season. Two good young defensemen that, we'll see if they start the season with the Blue Jackets. But that's it for us. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find Hayden over at HaydenH971. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. If you want to email us, you can at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, for making us your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms. We are over on YouTube. We are on Sirius XM. Please remember that you've got to type Locked On Blue Jackets --daily podcast for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Otherwise, you will not find us. Tomorrow, once again, we're doing Marcus Bjork and Adam Boquist, talking about their season and their futures with the team. But until then, make sure you stay locked on.